Appreciate it. Let's start with this, though. The ACC. You know, we had this story. It has not been out there, although there was maybe some simmering several months ago. The ACC announced it has endorsed a success incentive initiative that will begin during the 24-25 academic year, so not this year, but the following year. And basically, with all due respect, it doesn't change how someone splits up the revenue that's a part of their TV deal with ESPN. But what it does, if you are successful, you will get more, and it won't be split evenly. So if you're Florida State or Clemson, you end up in the college football playoff, you're going to get a bigger chunk of that. If you're North Carolina or Duke and you get to the Final Four, you're going to get a little bit larger chunk of that. That's how it works. That didn't take very long. They got it done.
Yeah, it's still not going to bridge the gap as much as they really want it to when they look at what their in-state rivals are going to be doing, or their cross-conference, all those, other people. But it makes the schools happy that feel like they're going to be there the most. And most conferences are really like this in that, it's a couple schools that kind of run the league when it comes to football, and FSU and Clemson have really been the ones in the ACC, and they feel like maybe they can get this. For FSU, they better start winning, otherwise it's going to be stupid that their AD was the first one who floated the idea out there. But they got it done, and now they have to wait until 2036 to really do anything, I guess. But hopefully this placates them at least a little bit until then.
Well, Paul sounds excited about the ACC.
Your school was barking first, right?
They were, and look, good for them. I'm happy that they're out there stating their cases. Hey, can be a huge and has been a huge college football brand for a long time. The television ratings are there, but all of the things, they have everything you want. I mean, last 5 years of football notwithstanding, they have everything you want at Florida State to be a big football brand, but have to acknowledge that. Okay, we're going to sit here and continue to make $30 million less than the Gators. Like, that's not acceptable. So they've got to make those statements, but you also have to make sure that you're good, because otherwise it just makes you look silly, especially to the people who are.
But the timing's good for them. Men's basketball's well down. Football is on its way up and may even contend for not only the conference title, but a national championship. Craig?
Good for them. It certainly solves, a big issue that was out there bubbling and hadn't quite gotten to being a real problem just yet, but was well on its way to becoming that. And so they cut it off at the pass and were able to bark a little bit and get the attention that they needed to sit down and have these talks and figure some things out. So if you win, you make more money. If you win, you get more prestige. If you win, it solves a lot of problems. So if you're an ACC team that doesn't like the gulf of that gap, there's not any real solution that's going to solve that, as Paul pointed out there. But you can, at least take out some of that space in between by going and winning. So that's what Florida State needs to do. That's what Clemson needs to do. That's what Miami and everybody else needs to do if they want to sit there and try to, stay as close as possible to the Michigans, Ohio States, Alabamas, OUs of the world here in the next few years. It's kind of weird, though, because I was just thinking about how winning is really all that matters in the grand scheme of things. If you win national titles and you get more prestige, you get more TV money and all of that. But it's not like the ACC hasn't won some titles,
No.
That's the thing. Is like the Big 12, you look at them and you go, well, shoot, Texas is the last team to win a championship. That's when, it was 2005. That's nearly 20 years ago. It's nearly 20 years. Yeah. Can y'all believe that? No. I know exactly where I was watching that game. I think everybody who watched that game knows exactly where they were. I was in my buddy's garage playing pool. He had his screen set up in the early days of the flat screens, and we were sitting there in his garage just BSing and watching Vince Young, and Reggie Bush and Matt Leinart and all those guys do their thing and have an incredible performance. But that was a long time ago. And then Oklahoma 5 years before that, and that's all she wrote. Now, granted, Oklahoma played for like 20 more and couldn't win one, but Clemson's had their success. FSU's title at this point is kind of getting old and gray as well. But
it's half that age. It's 10.
Yeah. It's starting to get up there and mature a little bit, but it's not that crazy like UT or Oklahoma's. So they've had some recent success, and they had the big shiny new program in so many ways compared to the blue bloods per se. They got the newer blue blood in Clemson, and it's still that far apart. So you win championships, that closes the gap, but it's not as though the ACC hadn't done that. And so that's something that you wonder about, is how much can they close that gap how much can Clemson, replay what they've done? How much can Florida State relive the 90s and bring some of that back? But if you're an ACC fan and you wanted the conference to stay together, or you're one of those schools that, wanted to stick with the status quo but have the option to be able to, be a bit more competitive, I think that solves all your problems.
And it's not just FSU and Clemson. Remember
Right.
what Wake Forest has said. Hey, we're going to be good in football for a while. And so they're going to get a little extra out of that, little sugar out of this deal. One of the things, while the complete specifics have not yet been solidified, the Success Incentive Initiative will begin, not this coming school year, but 24-25, once the college football playoffs expanded version begins. So that's great. They worked it out. It did not take long. Good for them and the ACC. Now,